Yo, you already know what time it is. It's your boy Mack B. I'm in the building. The Sports Hop Podcast is back. It's on and popping. I got a special guest in the house today. Shout out to the Godfather of Latin hip hop. I got my man Mellow Man Ace in the building.
What up, though?
What's up, family?
You already know.
You good?
I'm good, man. Truly blessed. You know what I mean?
Always grinding, right?
Yeah. It just don't stop, man. You know. Life is a beautiful thing, man. And if you utilize your time right, then you can accomplish some things. If you manifest right, you know, you throw some things in the air and they come back, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, let's jump right in, fam. Let's talk about the fact you were born in Cuba. You came to Cali. Talk about the transition from Cuba to California, growing up in Southgate. Tell us about that.
Yeah, migrated from Cuba in 1971. I won the Cuban lottery to get my family off the island.
Right.
And relocated to Southgate, California for the most part. And back then, I mean, the 70s were tough, bro, because, you know, we fought with everybody. Nobody understood what a black Latino was at that time.
Right.
Unless you were Celia Cruz or somebody like that, and you were famous, people just, okay, she's black, but she speaks Spanish. But for the rest of us, it was tough on the street. So we used to have to fight with the Mexican cats because the Mexican cats hated the fact we was black,
Right.
but spoke better Spanish than them. And then we had to fight all the black brothers because the brothers hated because we spoke fluent Spanish and had good hair. We didn't know none of that shit was about. You know, you come from another country and you're trying to, you know, we came with the clothes on our back. We just trying to make a better life. That's what we knew. We didn't expect to encounter those things in the 70s, but as the 70s decade was coming to a close, people were starting to understand a black Latino, an Afro-Cubano a little better. And then as hip-hop came in the early 80s from the East Coast, people started to really like, oh, wait a minute, something else is happening here. And, you know, it was just that transitional period of the 1970s, the early 70s, that had to be the hardest part of my life in the United States. You know what I mean? It was a very difficult time when the ignorance was high at that time.
Right.
I think for the most part, you know, you had a lot of Afro-Latino players in the major leagues, but people were still trying to like understand that. People like Mike Cuellar, Camilo Pascual, Tony Oliva, Tony Perez. I mean, the list goes on, like Bert Campaneris, who played for the Oakland A's, the shortstop.
Right.
There's a lot of Cubanos, Afro-Cuban, especially Jose Cardinal, Louis Tiant, you know, for the Boston Red Sox, major superstar, 1975, 76, 77, you know, and they're trying to understand us, you know what I mean? And I think it was, when you come from another country, you have to learn the language here in order to be able to navigate through life, right? And so I think the language barrier was equally as difficult, you know, for me and Sandog, our two sisters, you know, to try to just defend ourselves on these streets. Cali can be crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And when you don't know the, you know what I'm saying? The
Right.
way around, and you can't talk the talk, you know, things could get quirky quick, man. But I think, you know, for the most part, just real blessed to have made it out of that. I got to give shout out to my man, rest in peace, Leonard. He was a Cholo cat from Elm Street who he kept all the Cholos away from me. Like, leave him alone. He gonna do something special. And the way Leonard lost his life, he was playing a game of Russian roulette and blew his brains out at a party, at a ditching party. But he was the one that in the 70s was like, yo, like, leave Mello alone. He's gonna do some shit. And, you know, and he was right. I never took anything for granted here. I might have taken some things like not as serious, but I never took anything for granted. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, you know, your influence with hip hop and how you came into the game, right? Because it was a different time, you know, in the 80s and the 90s. Who inspired you to get into the game?
Well, I mean, from a professional standpoint, I heard two records, two MCs that really changed what I wanted to do. Like,
Right.
in 1981, I heard a record by the name of Disco Dream by a group called The Mean Machine on Sugar Hill Records. And toward the end of the record, there was a cat rapping in Spanish. Later on, I would come to know his name was Mr. Schick. Now, I'll fast forward it to bring it back. 3 years ago, I got to meet Mr. Schick through his cousin who saw me give Mr. Schick his props on my Facebook page.
Right.
Linked us up. We met in Palm Springs. Big older brother. Now bring it back. Ever since I've been doing this music shit, I've been saying his name. Been saying his name for 30 some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
Whether people listen to the interviews or they don't. And another MC by the name of the Ram LZ, who was he was the MC for Rocksteady Crew in the 80s. If you ask me, he had a God quality about his MCing because he was waking up other entities within hip hop. Here's what I mean. He used to be from Far Rockaway, Queens. I think it's Queens.
Right, it is.
But in his rhymes, right, he would say, so I shot across town to Cypress Hill. At the time, we living on Cypress and we thinking about what we gonna call ourselves as a crew. Ramel comes out. We start sampling his records early on. He has another line where he says, this is the mellow they call the Ramel, the shaka with the rhythm. And we snatching all these things up.
Right.
So now you got Cypress Hill, the group, based off of an idea that came from Ram LZ. You got Mellow Man Ace from Ram LZ. And then you got the Spanish rap part from Mr. Schick. They get kicked off the label, moving back to Mr. Schick and Sugar Hill Records. They get kicked off the label in 1982 for asking to see an accounting of all their sales. So from 1982 to 1987, nobody's doing anything with Spanish rap.
Right.
That's when I grab the torch, pick it up. I meet people at Delicious Vinyl. I kick my Spanish rap. They love it. And now Spanish rap is back on. But what we learned there was that you can't introduce Spanish rap to an audience, first of all, that's not ready for it. And second of all, too complicated or too abrasive. We learned that when we flipped the script, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later. Mentirosa, right. When we did Mentirosa, we had to dumb everything down. Because we learned from Mr. Schick and now Mas Bingo, my record, you do it hardcore, they're not ready for it. They're not going to be ready for it. So.
Right. So you had the situation with Delicious Vinyl Capital. Mentirosa, which was a smash hit by you, sat on the Billboard charts for 24 weeks, peaked at number 14.
Yeah.
That dropped in August of 1990, right?
Right. Yeah.
Walk me through that process of that particular record. Was it your concept, your idea? Break it down.
Yeah, no, the idea really wasn't mine. I've been saying it for a minute. Just giving credit where credit is due. Tony G, the great master teacher, I call him. He's the one that came with the idea to do a bilingual Spanglish record. I come through the studio one day, and he got this Santana loop going, and he was like, "Yo, I know we already did a Spanish record, rapping in English, but mix both languages on this one."
Right.
I said, "Well, how do I do that? This has never been done." He said, "I don't know, and I don't care. Just don't come back to the studio until it's in both languages." So it was Tony G's idea. I was just the vehicle to make it manifest. And if sometimes in life when you want something so bad, you'll go through that length to, create something that will change the way, bread is sliced or shit like that. You know what I mean? It reinvents the wheel a little bit. And I think that's the beauty of that particular style.
And you had a hit record and you were young at the time.
Yeah.
How did you handle that success, but still handle the other side of life, right? Because you got the entertainment, but at the end of the day, you got to go home family, things of that nature, friends. Yeah. I'm sure you had a lot of new friends coming out the woodwork when they saw the success of Mentirosa. So walk me through that process.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Fate, man. I mean, I handled success terrible. I had no teacher.
Right.
I had nobody to learn from.
No mentor.
No mentor that was physically in front of me saying, yo, don't do this, don't do that. Go there, meet these people. These were all things that I was learning in real time and just dealing with people's energy as they came to me or around me, around my energy.
Right.
You know, so I didn't have anybody to mentor, right? So I'm learning good things and I'm learning bad mistakes at the same time, making bad mistakes at the same time. So, I mean, I handle success poorly. I feel when you don't know that you signed up for, you can no longer go to the grocery store by yourself.
Right.
It becomes a little different.
Unless you're in disguise.
Well, I never did that. But
Right.
Or you're at the restaurant, somebody notices, everybody come over, everybody want a picture now, autograph, and your meal is sitting there cold, right? I didn't sign up for that, so I didn't like that part of it. What I did like was all the perks that came with it. You know, all the freebies. Oh, go to the front of the line. Mellow Man Ace, make way. You know,
VIP.
Yeah, VIP status all the way around. If you go cop some wheels, they're now free for you. Just do a promotion for the rim shop. You know, take a picture with a couple of models. You got free rims, right? And all those kinds of things. Those perks were really fun, but the other ones, you know, really wasn't. And so at this time, being the face for everything Latino, basically being like the Bad Bunny of 1990, right?
Right.
It's the only way I can compare it. You know? Because we would land in places in foreign lands and they'd be waiting 100 photographers and journalists on the tarmac, you know? Mm-hmm. This is before the ramps and the fly shit that took you from the terminal right to the plane.
Old school.
They come right to the terminal, you know what I mean? I mean, up to the tarmac. And then you had to hit them. Everybody had to get an interview. In places like Colombia, Costa Rica, Santiago, Chile, these places we were ambassadoring for hip hop. And so in these places, everybody wanted to get their interview. You can't go to the hotel until everybody, all 100 of them, get their interview.
Right. No matter how long it took.
No matter how long it took. Now your crew, oh, see you later. We're going to the hotel swimming pool. Right. Meanwhile, you're stuck in front of 50, 75, 100 cameras, giving everybody their interview. The next morning you wake up, all those newspapers and all the things that you did the night before are in front of your front door, piled up at your hotel. Like, damn, they printed this shit out so quick.
Wow.
Yeah. It was.
Speaking of being on the road and traveling, so walk me through your first major tour. Was that in the U.S.? Was it in Latin America? Was it a little bit of both? And that experience on the road, being away from home, did you get lonely?
Because I had a bilingual record hitting in both markets at the same time.
Right.
I have to be on a pendulum at all times. I have to be on a seesaw. What I mean by that is one day I might be on Soul Train. The next day I'll be on Christina. One day I might be on Arsenio Hall. The next day I'd be on Don Francisco. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things where you fed the audience in real time, but you had to go back and forth. Mainstream, Latin, mainstream, Latin, mainstream, right?
Right.
And so they kept me busy. It kept me really busy. And at that time, I remember never really feeling lonely, except one time. Me and my man, DJ Julio G, we're in New York.
Shout out to Julio, by the way.
We're in New York, and we're at a really beautiful hotel. I forget if it's the Mondrian or whatever the hell. Four Seasons, whatever the fuck it was. He comes in my room. I got a bed full of money, and I'm counting all my paper, you know? And he's like, God damn, you know? we really doing this shit, huh? I'm like, yeah, look at this shit. I forgot how many thousands was on the bed.
Right.
Anyway, I count my money, and then he's counting his. You know, I paid him handsome. You know what I mean? I made sure to keep. Yeah, I took care of him.
Right.
And so he asked me for a certain amount. This is what you get. Bam, everything is lovely. So he leaves. I pull out my money, put it all out. You know, and I go, well, for some particular reason, we had just played Roselands in New York. And for some odd reason, it was an NE heartbreak night. You know what I mean? That means that an NE heartbreak night is when you don't get any groupies. Okay, it's a dry run for whatever reason. It's just it didn't pan out for you that night, right?
The well was dry.
The well was dry. There was no, for some reason, I don't know if they shuffled us out the back so quick. You know,
right?
Whatever it was, I didn't have time to snatch something. You know what I mean? So I felt lonely that day. You know what I mean? But that only happened that one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you facilitated the whole Cypress Hill movement. You basically introduced Be Real to your brother Sin Dog.
Right.
Walk us through that process and how that came about. And they used to rock with you on some shows, right?
Oh, yeah. Nah, come on. We were a very tight-knit crew.
Yeah.
You know, at that time. I mean, I was always sure of what I wanted to do, as guys like B was still honing his skills. And what I mean by that is we were in the same breakdance crew together.
Right.
Now we're talking about we 16, 17. We're just kids. So one day I see a movie called Crush Groove and another one called Wild Style. And I knew, like, yo, if we do this right, we could end up like them dudes on the big screen. And so I got tired of our little breakdance crew just wanting some pussy after the show, after the little breakdance battle. That was good for them. But for me, where I wanted to go was to the big screen, touring, making real money,
right,
being celebrities, you know, with this rap shit. Like, let's get out of the hood with this. You know what I mean?
Right.
That day, I decided to go to the breakdance crew where they was chilling up at the bleachers at the school. And I said, yo, I'm taking my man B. His name wasn't even B back then yet. It wasn't even B Real.
He was B-boying.
He was B-boying, so that wasn't even his name.
Right.
I believe at that time it could have been Chili Chill at the time. Could have been B Chill. There was a period there where he changed his name so frequent.
Right.
All right. So I'm taking him with me. I believe in this kid. Plus, he was half Cuban, so he always felt like a little brother to me. And so I took him, brought him on the hill, introduced him to my brother Sandog. We all became like a unit. Plus, we already had Tomahawk Funk Dubious, who grew up with us.
Right.
So now we got a really good group of MCs, you know, of guys that are really rapping, you know. Because we turned from breakdancers to rap, to b-boy, from b-boying to MCing. Excuse me. And then we added my man Crazy D, who was the only Mexican at the time down with NWA.
Right.
Who happened to stay in Huntington Park. We in Southgate. Huntington Park is the next city over. So now we got a lot of ill MCs. One of my Puerto Rican homeboys, resting in peace now, Eli, starts dating this Puerto Rican girl from Brooklyn. Through that connection, she had this dude she was seeing from Brooklyn as well. Mm-hmm. Turns out to be Brady B from a group called 7A3. In that group, the DJ was DJ Muggs. So now they said, y'all should meet Muggs because he's just like y'all. So we meet Muggs. He's a white boy, Italiano, but he's a B-boy. He's a baseball player. He does everything the way we do it. So now we got Muggs. And then through the high school connection, I bring Julio G on board. So now we got 2 DJs. But for the most part, that's the nucleus of the beginning of Cypress Hill. At that time, we wasn't even called Cypress Hill yet. We was called DVX, which stood for Devastating Vocal Excellence which was a play off of UTFO.
Right.
Okay. May sound corny now, but to us back then, the shit was dope. And niggas have respect on the streets because the way we was killing the parties, the backyard parties, the battles, the high school dances, nobody could see us from cities, from miles around. And I think, you know, the other thing that we would do is we would bring our own microphones to the jam. So if you thought you was gonna rap behind us, you better have brought your own mic because we snatching our shit and we leaving. And we're going to the next party. And we're gonna plug in there and we're gonna tear that shit up too. And we're gonna go to the third party and we're gonna take all our shit with us and go. And that's how we did it. And we built a buzz so crazy. Now, within this transition, there was a time there where Pops had kicked me out of the house. I believed in myself so much with this rap shit.
This was right in the middle of Mentirosa?
No, before Mentirosa.
Before Mentirosa, okay.
You asked me about the forming of Cypress Hill and the whole thing, right? So I'm still there on that.
Okay.
So Pops is like, he wants me to keep a job, like Sendog, right? Sendog got a job. I believe he was working at JCPenney security guard or some shit like that.
Right.
Pops is like, I need you to get a job and chip in the house. And I'm like, but I'm going to get ready to make it. Hold up. I'm going to get ready to make it. He's like, hell no. Kicks me out. I go to the hood house. Staying at the hood house. And that's what really, I think, helped turn me into a man. Like, I had to get on. I had to get it right now. I got to impress my pops to get back into the crib. In this time period, Be Real bails to the hood through some blood affiliation guys that we knew from high school.
Right.
And because he stayed so far in Gardena, the bus ride back and forth to Southgate, where we was at on the hill, became too much. I mean, he had to ride through hoods, enough hoods. And, you know, once you get on the bus, you're not safe.
Yeah. You stuck.
Because you stuck. Because cats get on the bus, like gang banging on you. You know what I mean? So he goes and stays in the hood. Then he gets shot. Running the mission. I forgot what he was doing. He gets shot. And that's when, at the same time, by the good grace of God, you know, the Paul Rodriguez show now calls me and says, yo, we love your record, Mas Bingong and this Mentiros. Now we're starting to track, right? As this time is going by, we're honing our skills. Everything's going. He gets shot. I get called to do the Paul Rodriguez show, excuse me. So now, me and Sendog go to the hospital, Killer King, where B's laid up, and we're like, look, it's time to really stop bullshitting. It's getting real. We need you to come back on the block. We already doing this shit on TV. Mello's already getting on with Delicious Vinyl. Stop playing. Let's go. And that's what he did. He came back to our hood, and we let him sleep in the house from time to time when moms and pops wasn't looking. Trying to do the best we could,
right,
to facilitate him being around us more. We'd borrow moms and pops' cars to shoot him back to Gardena, so he wouldn't have to be on the bus. Excuse me. He wouldn't have to be on the bus so much. Get sweated, get stepped to, whatever.
Right.
Anyway, so we did that, and in the interim, I get now the Delicious Vinyl deal, and then I parlay that into the Capitol deal. So now I break away. I come back home with my test presses. Yo, Pops, look, I made a record. And he was like, oh, snap. Oh, you know, come back in, my nigga. You welcome here anytime. You know what I mean?
So now he
happy. Yeah, Pops is happy. I'm back at the crib. So now the other 4 or 5 members have to decide what to do. Crazy D, he ends up being with NWA. And then my man Tomahawk Funk, he goes with Funk Dubious. And then the other 3, Muggs, B, and Sang, start Cypress Hill. Right? So now they working on demos and things of this nature, but they still didn't have their style. They didn't have the marijuana, I don't want to call it a gimmick, I'll call it a lifestyle yet.
The culture.
The culture of it.
Right.
hadn't come to them yet. So as I'm getting on and signing deals with Capitol Records. They're starting to put it all together. So they would come with me on my shows. I'd introduce my crowds to who they were, as sometimes they dance for me, sometimes they hype man for me, right? So, and that's kind of how we did it. My crowds would know who they were by the time their record came out in 91, 92. A lot of the West Coast people knew who they were from running with me and my affiliation. So that's kind of, I know it got a little long-winded there, but
right.
I mean, it's a story that's worth telling, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you were the first solo Latin artist to go platinum.
Gold and
Let's
platinum.
not get it twisted.
Gold and platinum in the U.S. and Mexico.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let's not get that twisted. Walk me through the process of your second album, which was The Brother with Two Tongues.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, how you transitioned from Escape from Havana to The Brother with Two Tongues.
Well, I mean, there was really no transition. It was just coming up with a different name for another project.
Right.
You know, I think the hardest part was making sure that we kept it as versatile as the first album. Because if you remember the Escape from Havana album, that had Spanish rap, English rap, bilingual rap, ballad, hip hop, rock records like Hip Hop Creature. We sampled Smoke on the Water. It had Afro-Cuban rhythms. It had also house music.
Right.
So we was doing so many different styles. So I wanted to make sure that The Brother with Two Tongues had that same level of not creativity, but, you know, a wide range of genres were covered. Because you didn't know what could hit, you know, in the Latino market or in the mainstream market or at the hip hop level, right?
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that we made a record that was experimental as well. You know what I mean? We're experimenting with a lot of different sounds, a lot of different styles. I brought in predominantly all the same guys that worked on the first one: DJ Muggs, Tony G, Julio G, Bronick, my boy Bronick.
Right.
And so we try to, Ralph M now was added. Also, the Baker Boys got their first chance to record some music on my second album. So we were trying to help a lot of people who had good ideas, and we did well with that record. There was really no breakout hit on that one other than What's It Take to Pull a Hottie that did very well for us on MTV on The Box.
I remember The Box. That's old school.
Yeah, Downtown Julie Brown really loved that record. But it did so much that on my third album budget, we're looking at $500,000 now. So,
right.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward to 2006. Okay, Latin Thug Records.
Yeah.
Okay, Ghetto Therapy, the Reyes Brothers. I still slap that today, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think that album was marketed the right way.
True.
Because I think it was a dope project.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, my brother, Sendog, man. Now he's well known, well renowned, you know, at this time.
Right.
You know, Cypress Hill is like the Beastie Boys, the second coming of the Beastie Boys. And by this time, he wanted to do his own label. So he got with Koch Records and Koch Distribution, and they did a deal for his own label called Latin Thug Records. And he wanted his first project to be a record between he and I. We've never recorded as brothers. At this time, it's like 15 years have gone by in the game, and we've never done anything as brothers. It's just the brothers, right? Without Be Real in there, without this one and that one.
Right.
Tomahawk or Crazy D, anybody. So we do the record, and I remember what we did was, it was a process of elimination. We got with the producers that we wanted to work with, Warren G, DJ Ace, this one, that one, Scoop DeVille, and so what we did was we took tracks, and then we'd sit at Sendog's crib listening to the beats. I mean, CDs after CD after CD of beats, and then we hand specifically chose this one. We're gonna keep this one from Scoop DeVille. We're gonna keep this one from Warren. We're gonna keep this one from such and such. We're gonna keep this one. So then Sam was on the road a lot with Cypress Hill, so he'd be like, all right, look, I gotta go on the road, but why don't you go in the lab and start tracking out the ideas that you want to do for these particular songs, and then when I come through, I'll listen to what you did, and then I'll match whatever you did on the concept level. And that's how we did it, and that's how we put it together. Throughout that process of that record, though, something happened, some in-house issues that had come about with the president, the vice president. Of course, Sendog was the CEO. Some things weren't able to be hashed out. And so the project, as we're blowing up, and our show was crazy.
Right.
Our live show was crazy. I mean,
I remember.
Our live show was crazy because I went out and bought these stage props that were crazy. 2 lowriders, a barbecue grill, a fire hydrant, a big fence behind us, a light post that said Cypress and Fires. I mean, our show is second to nobody at this time, and we're coming up. And people are starting to really take notice. Like, yo, the brothers are really bubbling with this shit. Like, this shit is so crazy. And the album's called Ghetto Therapy, so, you know, the music being our therapy, we brought the ghetto to the stage. It just made perfect sense. Now there's an inner conflict in internal affairs issues that can't be handled, and the project just dies, you know, which is very, you know, it's very saddening for me as one of the artists, one of the brothers, because the masses didn't get to see, didn't get to hear it or see it to as many people as we wanted to take it. I mean, we were playing festivals in Spain, headlining already, you know. We were blowing this thing up. And I think from a mass standpoint, people in the States, you know, if you wasn't in California, Arizona, parts of Hawaii, you know, that we went to, you never got to see it. And that's a damn shame. Yeah.
I loved it, though. I still play it today, my man. I love that Ghetto Therapy. Make sure y'all cop that.
Yeah,
okay?
Get that,
you
man.
can go
Cop
online.
That. Yeah.
Latin Thug Records, Ghetto Therapy, the Reyes Brothers. Make sure y'all cop that. Trust. Let's pivot to modern hip hop, because you came into the game, the music was vastly different. Now we're in a whole new generation of music. Talk to me about the music from your era, because you're still making dope music now, but let's talk about from the early days when you were creating music to now, and what is your perspective on that?
Well, I mean, I think the most important part of that whole thing is how it's created, right? Back in my time, back in my day, in the 1900s, you know, back in the 1900s, in the late 1900s, you know what I mean? You know, came in, we were recording on 2-inch reel, you know, which is warm, is a warm sound.
Right.
It gives you that bottom, that boom, boom, you know what I mean? As we move on through time, you get the DAT machine era, you get the CD and tape era, you know, and all that. And then you get to the digital era where now everything is pancaked down and you lose a lot of that warmth, you know, that happens from a baseline standpoint. Just alone, when you squash that down, that frequency, you lose that bottom end. And I think from that standpoint, that's the part that I don't like as much. However, the plus side of that is anybody with a little keyboard and a computer now can make a beat, can make a record.
From the bedroom, from the crib.
From the bedroom, which is a plus and a minus at the same time. It's a pro and a con, because a lot of cats don't know what they doing. And the reason they don't know what they doing is because they never lived the experience of hip hop. It's a culture. And if you think that you can just buy something and become culture, you cannot. You can't do it.
Real talk.
And I think that's where music suffers the most when you listen to it today. A lot of cats today never lived in an era where they went to the jam and saw Ice-T, NWA, Cypress Hill, Mellow Man Ace, you know, Everlast, Rhyme Syndicate, all in one jam, and everybody like rocking. They didn't have these type of experiences, or neither did they have the experiences of battling in the park, honing their crafts,
right,
battling in high school parties and these types of things, being in freestyle ciphers and things of this nature. So what happens is the music suffers because of it, right? It gets more watered down and tainted, right?
Right.
And I think repetitive,
yeah,
which is something that we see now on the radio when multiple artists use the exact same instrument to create their sound, and you don't know which one it is unless you really listen really, really damn good. But we took pride back in the day that, you know, Houdini didn't sound like NWA, and NWA didn't sound like the Beastie Boys. The Beastie Boys didn't sound like King T. King T didn't sound like Mellow Man Ace. Mellow Man Ace didn't sound like Biz Markie. And I think that's how all of us became legendary, was because we stuck to our own thing and gave you a wide variety of things to pick and choose from. Like when you go to the market, supermarket, you don't just buy all bananas, have bananas for dinner, breakfast, lunch, all that. Nah, man, we gave you a variety of taste, of flavors, and things to pick from. Latifah didn't sound like Salt and Pepper. Salt and Pepper didn't sound like Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo didn't sound like MC Lyte. And it was that individualism and the culture freedom of expression to hone your own skill and bring it in your own personal way without stepping on somebody else's style.
Right. And you toured with a lot of legends. You had a lot of relationships in the business over the years. Outside of the Cypress Hill camp, outside of Mellow Man Ace and the Cypress Hill camp, who were you really tight with and still tight with today?
Well, I mean,
in terms of other artists,
this particular artist is no longer with us. I was very tight, and I toured with the late great queen of salsa, Celia Cruz, who was like a auntie to me.
Right. Rest in peace.
You know, that to me is priceless, and I can say that I did that in my lifetime. Toured with her. A group that you would probably never figured me to tour with, Air Supply.
Really?
Air Supply.
From Australia?
From Australia. We toured all over Colombia together. And to this day, if you ask a Colombian, like the one or two biggest concerts were the Mellow Man Ace Air Supply concerts. Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
That's dope.
I mean, hip hop and everybody that I've met, you know, I mean, when it comes to, you talk about, as an Afro-Cuban, talking about Celia Cruz, you know, come on, man, it don't get no higher than that, no bigger than that.
Get no bigger than that.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It don't.
Right. Real talk. All right, let's pivot to sports. I know you're a big sports fan. Shout out to the Dodgers. I mean, they kind of struggling. They're still in first place now, but they're 13-12. So you guys got to get it together.
Yeah.
They're still in first place in the National League West.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of coming out the gate kind of slow.
Yeah.
Have you had any time so far? The season is young. Have you been able to hit a Dodger game? You've been watching them on TV. Talk to me about that.
To be honest with you, I haven't had time. I haven't had time to get out to the stadium. As you know, I started a music and entertainment program in the city of La Puente, and that takes up a lot of my time. You know, I got over 100 students, stuff like that. I got to grade papers. I'm a teacher now, so I really don't know what's up, or I haven't gotten to the games. You know what I mean? And so I know what the record is. I know we're in first place.
Right.
That's cool.
Not playing
I'm watching. Well. I'm listening, I should say. I'm listening because, look, the season is young. We'll know where they're at by All-Star break. You know what I mean? If we have a squad or not that's going to go to limb.
Facts.
So there's no time right now to be worried or concerned right now. Unless, I mean, they go on a 10-game losing streak, then we'll have to worry about who do we really have here. But right now we're in first place, and so you just got to wait till the All-Star break.
Right. You recently rocked at halftime of the Clippers game.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that experience.
Man, I got to tell you, I mean,
it's Lakers over here, though. I'm sorry.
No, of course. I mean, it's Lakers on mine too, but it's also Clippers, because my thing is, I'm not getting paid by any of them teams to love them, to like them, support them.
Right.
So whoever calls me first, we rep the jersey. It's all Cali, it's all LA.
Real talk.
And again, I'm not getting paid. But the Clippers had a night of Latino fan appreciation night, and they needed a Latino legendary cat with some, So they called me up, and I said yes, of course, and they cut the check. And hey, man, we went out and we rocked, man. It was, for me, I mean, it was a chance of a lifetime, man. An opportunity that is rare that you get in your career to do something like that. I jumped all over it and had a great time, man. I mean, it's a storybook life.
Right.
It seems like for me,
Right.
I'm one of the lucky ones for sure. And so I keep my humility where it needs to be in order to enjoy things like that, and hopefully other opportunities like that come about.
Right, and you touched on it, and let's continue to talk about your philanthropic things that you're doing, right? You're working with the kids in the city of La Puente, the Mellow Man Ace edutainment arts program.
Yeah.
How did all that come together? Give everybody watching the show further clarity on that situation and what you're doing.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm on the board of directors for a group called Lana. It's a networking group, and we do is we throw events and we network with people.
Right.
And we want everybody to know each other, so everybody hands out their business cards and they say a little bit about themselves and what they do and their expertises, what they bring to the table, and how we can intermix and interspend this money together, right, that we make. So if you need a podcast guy, Solomon's your guy. If Solomon needs a host or a TV man, he knows that Fatal's his man, right? If you need a plumber, we know that Jerry over there is the plumber. So we call him for every home need. Jerry's the guy. He makes the money. When Jerry is going to throw a quinceañera for his daughter, he going to call Mellow Man Ace to come perform. That's just how we do.
Right.
We keep the money within a pocket of these people. In that came to me a city councilman from La Puente, David Argudo. He says who he is. He's talking. I've done this for this many years. I've been this, city council. Woo. Mellow Man, I want to talk to you after we're done here. I said, cool. We're done now. And he comes to me and says, hey, I got an idea. I'd like to bring the arts back to the city and the community and the schools out here. And I want you to be the guy to spearhead a music program for Hacienda Heights, La Puente, Avocado Heights, Bassett, and Belinda, all that area, the San Gabriel Valley, right? So I said, okay, I'm cool. I like it. I said, what are we talking about? He was like, we're talking about this. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I like it.
The smile got bigger.
I like it. Well, I mean, it's good to be appreciated,
right?
And people to respect your time, your energy, your expertise, your know-how. So months go by now, and I don't hear anything from him. So I was like, man, this old fake ass, you know what I mean? So one day I'm playing a golf tournament, and my phone rings, and I'm looking. I'm like, oh snap, that's homie.
Out of nowhere.
3-4 months go by.
Right.
Yo, hey, what's up, man? It's such and such. I said, nigga, I know who you are. What's happening? You know what I mean? He's like, are you ready? I said, I was born ready. What are we talking about? He said, we need to do this, that, and the third. Then you're going to meet with city council and create a curriculum, present it to the city manager, Mayor Klinakis and all that. I said, okay. And so I reached out to Abby, who's a friend of mine who we've known and recorded for the movie Crazy Beautiful, Kristen Dunst,
Right.
produced by DJ Muggs. I reached out to my man Bronick, who'd been with me since The Brother with Two Tongues, because I wanted to have a rap class, a singing class, and an instrumental class. How do you make beats with keyboards and drum machines? And so we got it together, and lo and behold, we're in our this Thursday would be our second week. The program has started April 20th. We have over 100 kids that we teach, you know, the arts to, through our experiences, and it's been an amazing challenge, but one that I'm up to. You know, I like being challenged, you know,
Right.
because I've never done this to a professor type of level or teacher or whatever. I mean, I've done some lecturing and some you know, engagements like that, thanks to Chuck D, a Public Enemy, you know, where we spoken at, you know, the Oscar Schomburg Museum in New York, NYU, Santa Barbara College, Pepperdine, and all these other things, but never bringing a straight curriculum to you and having to sit there with you and teaching you how to do these things, how you can write a rhyme in Spanglish. These things are a true blessing, I feel, from my mother, who's looking down at me from up above now since she's passed on. These things as a Cuban refugee, man, I would have never saw coming, and I didn't. If you would have told me 10 years ago, yo, Mel, in 2023, you about to start teaching, I would have been fatal. All right, whatever. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have believed you. But now it's here and it's real, and we're in our second week, and it's a beautiful time in life to hand down some of the knowledge, some of the shit that I've learned, you know. So I just want to, you know, big up David Argudo, City Council. Big up also the city manager, Bob Lindsay, and of course Mayor Charlie Klonakis down there. They've been amazing. They've been very forthcoming, and when they said something was going to be there, it was there on time. Whenever we have a need, classrooms are always taken care of, you know, no matter what we need. If it's 15, 20 keyboards, those are delivered on time. If it's 17 microphones, we get everything that we need. And when you're trying to do something, an endeavor of this kind, you definitely need people like that in your corner that are pushing for you to succeed.
Right. Real talk. I love it. Keep motivating, keep inspiring. Let's talk about your live shows, because you've always been a great performer live. I've seen you many times.
My dog.
But now, my man is slapping the congas. Like,
yeah.
How in the world did that come about? Because you always was a dope MC to me. But now you doing the conga thing, you going back on the mic, like you're delivering a full-fledged performance. Talk to us about that.
Thank you, first and foremost, my dog.
Love.
For real. Because we go back. Dog,
way back.
We go way back, slapping niggas on Sunset. You know, if needed be, you know. So, I mean, look, during COVID, I just want to thank COVID, because COVID really helped me to realize I needed to do more.
Right.
When we come out of this COVID thing, I wanted to be more. I wanted to be more complete as an artist. So one day I'm chilling on Facebook and I see that my homegirl Abby, she playing percussion on, and I already know she's a teacher.
Right.
So I'm like, this is a no-brainer. So I reached out to her. I called her. I said, hey, are you teaching percussion? She's like, yeah. I said, I want to take your class. She said, all right, it's this much of, you know, I'm like, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's, you know, $120, whatever it is an hour. I don't care.
You basically breaking bread.
Yeah. And that's family already.
Right.
I already known her for so many years. The other thing is I didn't want to like a male percussion teacher, because they harder.
Right.
they're harder on you.
They ride you more.
They ride you, and they be like,
Yeah,
yeah. And they come with that funky little attitude.
Facts.
So having a friend that already knows the craft made sense. And 2, 3, 4, 5 months go by, and she said, "You're ready to play on stage, at least your own stuff." And so I've been playing, congas and bongos on stage all last year through 2022, the whole tour, and this year as well.
Right.
And it's been a blessing, bro. I mean, to expand yourself, open yourself to being more versatile on stage is always a good thing. And I recommend it to all my homies who are MCs, rappers, whatever it is. Learn another thing. There's time in your day. Learn something else and keep growing, keep growing as an artist. Because now, the price is up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Inflation.
The price is up, man.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the Mellow Man Ace away from the spotlight, when you're not on stage rocking, when you're not working with the youth, which I love, by the way. What is your solitude? What is your calming? What is your just peace of mind moment? And do you do
Where
it
do
enough?
I find it, huh? Where I find the tranquility at?
Where do you find it?
Well, I think, my pops now living with me for the last 2-3 years helps me keep grounded.
Keeps you grounded.
And we have a beautiful home, and I'm able to practice my short game, my golf game in my backyard, or shoot some hoops or whatever, man. It's just I got this little area with the pond and everything, and I call it the little John Wayne area.
Okay.
Does it kind of remind you of a John Wayne movie every time you're there?
Right.
And the pond is sitting and the birds are flying in, drinking out of the pond, and they, you know, and I think that's where I find it the most, the golf course, with the homies.
You still got to teach me, by the way.
The golf course with the homies. That's where I find my alone time, my me time.
Right.
And it's peaceful there.
In closing, Mellow, and I love you, man. I appreciate the time. If you had one message for people watching the show, young, old, middle-aged, regardless, if you had one thing of inspiration that you can share collectively, what would that be?
I would have to say that no matter what you do in life, never get out of the line of it. Never get out of the frequency of it.
Right.
Because if you do, when you come back, you have to get back of the line. Mm-hmm. And you could have been the next one that the universe, God, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Jesus was about to bless.
Right.
But you got out of line prematurely. So never get out of line especially a creative endeavor like acting, dribbling out the hood, hitting a ball, football, rapping, dancing. If you have a vision, you have a dream, don't get out of the line. Don't get out of the line, because you have to start over.
Right. Real talk. It's on and popping. Sports Hop Podcast with Mellow Man Ace. It's on and popping. Shout out to Mellow. Shout out to Solomon. It's official.